President, in an occasion like this, it is of utmost importance for one to thank the people who, in the first place, voted for us to be here. For me, Yobe North has shown trust, and I want to take this opportunity to thank the people of Yobe North. I cannot forget to thank the people of the federal constituency of Bede Jakusko, who in the first place voted for me in 1999 to be a member of the House of Representatives for 4 years in the first term, an additional 4 years in the second term, a total of 8 years in the House. Mr. President, if I have to make comments on the Senate, it will be incomplete without making a remark on what happened on the 9th of June 2015. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, every one of us knows that I ran for the office of the President of the Senate in 2015. Eventually, Mr. President, we emerged. And I don't want to say anything further than that, but what is crucial and critical here is after you emerged, with support of the like minds, I was supported by the Senate Unity Forum, with our chairman, the revered Senator Benabas Gamade. We consciously decided, in the national interest, in the interest of this institution, for stability, unity, and optimal performance of the Senate, to work together. This Senate, therefore, today is a united Senate, and all of us are of like minds. Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, I served as chairman Senate Committee on Defense from 2015 to 2017. I had very good committee members, probably the heaviest committee in terms of people or senators on that committee, because almost all the retired generals in this chamber were members, including the former President of the Senate, our respected Senator David Mark. During the course of my work as chairman Senate Committee on Defense, I had interactions, very profound interactions with our armed forces. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, our armed forces are committed to fighting to preserve not only the territorial integrity of this country, but even our internal security. And they do so with commitment, dedication, with very little resources. I believe that we should continue to provide resources for our armed forces to fight the insurgency, the new in-town banditry, and all other security challenges that we face. We will only be fair to them if we provide them with those weapons and tools and platforms that they require. Mr. President, I believe that our armed forces have done so well. In 2017, to be precise, in January, I was made the Senate leader. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I want to take this opportunity to once again thank all of you for making me the Senate leader. I wouldn't have been a Senate leader and remain a Senate leader without your cooperation, your support, and all the advice that you have been able to give me. Mr. President, the work of the Senate leader is possibly the most difficult work to do in the Senate. Because you sit there, you watch someone raises his hand, you could say your eyes have not caught him, so you may not call him. You may decide to walk there and say, I'll be raising my hand, then you call him. The Senate leader is in charge of government business. The Senate leader is the leader of his colleagues by their endorsement. It's a delicate balance. On one hand, I have to defend my government. On another hand, I need to be at home with my colleagues. Sometimes, maybe there will be some difficulty. So it's a very difficult work, but you have still managed me. You have still accepted me the way I am. When I was made Senate leader, in my acceptance speech, I said, many people think I'm rigid. I'm not rigid. I said, we will do everything possible to work together. This assembly, like some of our colleagues who spoke before, I'm doing now, is the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. No matter how partisan we may feel, sometimes the national interest must remain at the back of our minds, that we are here to ensure that there's good governance in our country, that our peoples, no matter how diverse in ethnicity, in religion, etc., that they are not discriminated, that they benefit from government, because we are Nigeria in this chamber. So, I want to thank you for allowing me to stay up to this time as Senate leader. I've never felt so emotional like when I was asked to take a seat here as Senate leader. Why? For 16 years, actually, I was an opposition legislator. From the 8 years I spent in the House of Reps, and the then 8 years, from 2007 to 2015, I was on that side. And believe me, Mr. President, it is very good to be in opposition. In the sense that you can criticize government, you can advise government. The only thing that is critical is when to know the limit of the opposition. Because Senator Polka is here, who has done everything possible at that time to make me friends with the PDP administration. I was not a foul, and of course I was not a friend. I was only doing my work on that side to tell government, you are wrong. But I supported government of PDP thoroughly and very consciously for 16 years where it needed the support. So I want to thank you, especially our colleagues on that side, for supporting us on this side. Because definitely there were so many cases and issues that without your cooperation and support, this Senate wouldn't have passed them. You have done so well. We are looking forward to a better performance, that in the 9th Senate, how I wish we could demolish this eye so that we all sit mixed and do our work in the national interest. Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, let me say something about the relationship between the legislature and the executive arm of government. I have never worked anywhere longer than in the National Assembly. Yesterday, I was 20 years in the National Assembly as a member of the National Assembly. I'm therefore an institutions man. This is where I belong. And this institution can only be respected and taken seriously when we respect it and do our things very seriously. I believe that we can achieve that when we remain united, we remain committed to those ideals that will make Nigeria better, when we remain glued to those mandates stated in the Constitution as our mandates. Oversight, legislation, representation is individualistic. We can do that very effectively, and every executive arm of government would wish that there is so much serious and profound inputs from the legislature to making government work. This takes me to the disproportionate distribution of responsibilities in the Senate, probably in the National Assembly. We spend maybe 95 to 98% of our time on legislation, and we spend the remainder of maybe 7 to 2% or 2 to 7% on oversight. Oversight is critical. No matter how good legislations are, you need to know if such legislations are implemented properly. This is in the interest of everybody in the country, and particularly when you pass the appropriations, the provisions there for projects that need to be implemented across the country will require that you have a very structured oversight program, from conception of the oversight to reporting. We hardly report our oversight outcomes in the Senate, and that leaves all other senators who are not members of a particular committee in the dark. There will be a need to structure our oversight activities from conception to even the guidelines of how we should go about it, and ensuring that we don't fall into the hands of MDS by looking for any or accepting any kind of support. Probably we can achieve more, and especially report the outcomes of our oversight. I believe that will set the stage for better performance of the Senate. Mr. President, I came to the Senate in 2007. I journeyed with some of our colleagues here in 2007. Some of them, many of them are not here today. But Sekibo was here, Osita is in Aso, was here. These are some of my colleagues that we came with in 2007. In 2007, Caleb Zegi from Kaduna South was here, Nazif was here, and so many, 16 of us came from the House of Reps to this Senate in 2007. Nazif is the only one that has remained. Unfortunately, he's not here. But I've also had a sojourn with the people like Emmanuel Buacha, Aduda, Bukiari was with us in 1999 in the House. And there are so many of my colleagues from the House. Balanala is here. And so many others. Binta, whom I call Binturus, Gumel, and so many. You know what? If it would have been constitutional, would have said people should test the House of Reps before they come to the Senate. The House of Reps is a very good breeding ground for legislation, especially at the national level. Those who have passed through this House of Reps, I'm sorry, sir. Those who have passed through the House of Reps before coming here have gained so much, especially the 1999 group. That was when there was no influence of anyone. In fact, people felt that democracy was not going to last. So majority of people who went into the House at that time had no godfathers, so to speak. And therefore, we cut our teeth at that time on legislative activities and legislative independence. Coming to the issue of legislative independence, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I believe that the legislature has its work properly cut for it. You oversight, you expose corruption, embezzlement, and whatever. But I also believe that for us to get those impacts that we hope and pray for is for us in the Senate to be united and focused, regardless of our political affiliations. Because I represent a senatorial district that has APC, PDP, and even those who don't believe or belong to any political party. And so are all other senators. And when there's an issue, a challenge in any of our senatorial districts, the challenge does not discriminate between political parties. When people will be kidnapped along Kaduna-Abuja road, they don't ask you if you belong to APC or PDP before they say, enter, and they kidnap. They simply block the road. If you are lucky, they kidnap. If you are not, they open fire and kill people. So we have to have a united National Assembly, particularly the Senate. I also believe that when we disagree with the other arm of government, the executive arm of government, and we will definitely disagree, because by design, the Constitution has given us that responsibility and function of oversight, of checking possible executive excesses. We disagree with dignity. We disagree and to agree on the national interest. The national interest must always remain the bottom line, beyond which nobody goes and above which nobody goes. This can simplify our work and make us succeed. At the end of the day, what we are supposed to achieve is to bring good governance, to make democracy work, to reward the investments of our people, the investments in terms of the votes they have cast for us to be here and for the president to also be in office. So we have to work together. I believe that when we work together, we can achieve better, we can achieve more at a lesser cost. But for one day, I never imagined that the executive and the legislature will not disagree. It's not possible. But when we disagree, let's disagree on the basis of issues, and those issues must be resolved on the basis of the national interest. Mr. President, I cannot conclude my remarks without paying tribute to Senator David Mark, the former President of the Senate, the President of the Senate, 6th and the 7th Senate. Mr. President, you had 4 years with him as Senate President. Now you are the Senate President and he's a Senator. This is one individual leader in this country who has shown capacity in leadership, patriotism, and commitment and courage to ensuring that this National Assembly worked for Nigerians, that the legislature and the executive must work to deliver, and those of us who were younger at that time were petted by then Senate President. When I say petted, the Senate President will always give us an opportunity, whether inside chamber or outside, to try to be who we are. Sometimes here, of course, I was undermined, especially in the 6th Senate, I recall when Senator Teslim Folarin would sit here. And I would raise my hand, I would raise the second one, and he would just tell the Senate President, don't call him. Maybe I was going to contribute in a difficult issue or something. But we enjoyed ourselves. He built confidence in us. He gave us that sense that we can be like him or even better. Today, I'm paying tribute to him, and I'm doing this genuinely and sincerely. We may belong to different political parties. I believe that David Mark should have no political party. I'm happy he has announced that he has retired from active politics. What I want to see is David Mark to leave partisan politics, not active politics, because he is such a person, a leader in this country, that any political party in government or in power should use his natural leadership endowments. Finally, Mr. President, our staff, starting with clerk of the Senate, you have done a very wonderful job. You have taught us a lot of things, especially since I became Senate leader. You have put us through. Our friends seated here, and the press. What could we have done better without you? We couldn't have been heard or seen without you. You have done an excellent job. We'll ever continue to thank you and remember you. And let me say this, that those of us who are coming to the next Senate, the 9th Senate, by the grace of God, we are going to carry the responsibility of ensuring that those things that we have gotten right here in the 8th Senate, we continue to do them and try to improve on them. Those things that we have not gotten it right, we will work hard to ensure that we get them right. One thing we didn't get right was our inability for the 4 years to reduce the number of school-going children who are walking and roaming our streets. Nigeria has the highest number of 14 or 16 million children out of school. This is not acceptable. This is not only a social issue, but a security challenge to Nigeria. So the next Senate, and indeed the National Assembly, must do everything possible to get all the stakeholders, not only the executive arm of government, but every possible major stakeholder round the table to see how we can reduce or eliminate this number of 14 or 16 million children who are not going to school, because we can never know peace. Mr. President, my father was a commoner, but I was privileged to go to school, and that made the difference in my life. I want to see the son or daughter of every Nigerian, most especially the commoners, getting opportunities for their children and what? To go to school. They don't have to go to up to BSc level or degree level, but at least the basic education, where there is a terminal level at the JSS 3 level. If someone is not able to go to SSS 1, at least let that person get the entrepreneurial skills to go and be a carpenter or a mechanic, something that that person will be looking forward to and living for. Thank you very much, Mr. President. I must thank you. We have had a very decent, cordial relationship working. I believe that we had maybe just few moments of disagreement, but those things we did behind the scenes, and that's how it is supposed to be. Because as leaders, we are supposed to be our brothers' keepers. We should be advising ourselves, and even when we disagree, we should disagree with dignity and respect. Thank you very much. For the DSP, I've learned a lot from the DSP, like all of us, because this is the longest serving presiding officer in the history of Nigeria legislature. For 12 good solid years, he has been the deputy president of the Senate. You are a repository of legislative knowledge and procedures. Thank God you are not taking away with you. So he's going to be here for us to continue to tap from his experiences. Senator Adeye is not here, but I want to say that Senator Adeye, of course, we were in the House of Reps together. This is one Nigerian who can tell you as it is and even speak against himself. But he's a wonderful, very wonderful human being and very wonderful Nigerian. The other members of the principal officers, body of principal officers, especially the minority leader, very nice person, very nice person, very nice. Even though she could be controversial, but she has been absolutely fantastic. And all my colleagues, I want to thank you and also join others in begging you for forgiveness if in the course of our work we would have done something wrong to someone. And it was possible that we did it, but it must not be I didn't do that deliberately. Definitely, as human beings, from time to time, we will do things in a very, maybe unacceptable way. But thank God, I've enjoyed myself a bit as Senate leader, but I enjoyed myself more as an opposition person, because here, defending government, you don't have many friends. It is by the grace of God we are here, and we have done our best to ensure that everybody here supports the position of our government, and you have done so well to allow me lead the debates all the time. Thank you very much. God bless all of us. God bless the Senate and indeed the National Assembly of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. God bless this country, especially the people of this country who have tolerated us after they voted for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very